Mm. How's it going today, everybody? Well, I was just listening to one of my favorite speakers earlier, and he was talking about one of my favorite subjects. It was Manly Hall talking about magnetism and types of magnetic healing. And it's always fascinated me that there's this invisible world that we can never see. And this is the world of magnetism. And you could, by extension, if you really wanted to define it this way, when we speak about 1, 2, and 3-dimensional spaces, we end up talking about the fourth dimension, as some people say that the fourth dimension is a place, some people say it's a state of mind, some people say that time is the fourth dimension. Regardless, it matters not because we can't perceive anything beyond our 3-dimensional senses. So we have devices that can measure electromagnetic waves. We can measure the effects on the human body, on the environment, and it's relatively a new science when you talk about the actual, the human electro waves, if we have any particular magnetic waves that the human mind creates or the body creates. When we talk about healing, Manly Hall was talking about how healers may very well transfer their own energy to people. Say, when you get within a few inches of a person, you can will to transfer your energy to that person. Now, a lot of people might roll their eyes and say, it's all in the mind of the other person. Or it has everything to do with the placebo effect or to the suggestion of the person thinking that it's working. And this is probably true as well. And it's always led me to wonder whether or not that it's completely the person who thinks they're being healed, or if there's more to it with the healer themselves. My belief is that there is actually something going on there. When we talk about the chi, or the chi in the body, I believe that that's the magnetic field of the body. I believe in Russia, a couple decades ago, after the Cold War, they ended up having a lot of extra money to spend on, and they used it on all these scientific experiments, testing the effects of pyramidal structures, like on various things in aging and time. And one of the experiments they did where they, I believe, created this device that could measure the magnetic wave that's created by the heartbeat from, I believe it was up to, I want to say it was 30 feet away, but it might not have been that far. Maybe it was I could have sworn it was 30 feet. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that they could measure outside the human body energy. And this energy, in my belief, intermingles with other people's energy that we're around. Now, everybody knows that when you're around a sick person, it's easy to get sick yourself. Well, it's also easy to feel drained by a person who's mentally unwell or is depressed or anxious. If you're living with a person who's always upset, it's easy for you to become upset. Now, of course, you would say that it's just rubbing off on you, but there's more to it than this. Why is it rubbing off on you? Why should another person's mood affect us so strongly? How do we feel vibes when we know another person's feeling a certain way? And we could chalk this all up to chance and to, the fact that we know people. But I'm not going to go into whether or not it's true or argue whether we actually have these energy fields or whether we have what you might call the ether around us that allows us to tap into ideas and thoughts. Here's my belief, is that when you do something, say something, anything that you do in your life, it creates an imprint on that environment. It can create, and this could explain ghosts very well, but it also, you can create an imprint on objects by holding objects, and this is why in witchcraft they use objects and totems from the person, and when you use a lock of hair, you see this in the movies, or a trinket or a lighter or something that don't belong to a person. The reason for that is because when you touch something and hold something, or when you're somewhere in an area, you're actually creating an electronic or a magnetic signature, rather. Now, to back up a little bit, we know that magnetism is everywhere, that this is how the tides are pulled, the magnetism of the moon, which you would call it the gravitational pull. But there have been theories to propose that magnetism in a way is the opposite of electricity. Even though we call it electromagnetism, it would be considered like a symbolic polar opposite. and that magnetism, that electricity is much more prominent in our minds as an energy source because it's something we can actually see when we see the spark or the discharge, whereas magnetism, we can only see it, the effect on the objects. And we can only see the effect strongly on things like magnets or metal itself, or the directions of grains when there's a magnetic line in the earth, or as lava is cooling, those bits tend to align to magnetic north. There are visual cues we can see, but my point here is that it's my belief that there are magnetic fields that we can utilize, not just within our own bodies, but from the earth itself. And when you think about this one idea, it's what you might call activity or essence, or let me try to think of the word. Well, if I think too long, I probably won't be able to come up with it. But human nature and existence itself is merely what you would call, transmuted light. Okay, light energy. The sun is the source of everything, not just because it makes plants green, but because everything that's charged does so through the energy of the sun in one way or another. And there's a magnetic connection between the sun and the earth. Now, this was disputed for a long time. The magnetic connection between earthquakes and the sun is still fully in dispute in the community. And there are many people who have flocked to the electric universe theory to explain many of the things that are unknown. And me, for a while, I was very interested in that, and I still am fascinated, and I still believe a lot of it. That much of the cratering that we see is due to electrical discharge, and so the magnetic pole of these bodies create these electric discharges because of this energy. And the belief is that this is why earthquakes are caused on Earth, because there have been recorded magnetic disturbances before an earthquake, well before an earthquake even starts. And actually, I read that in Japan, I believe that there have been cases of magnets being demagnetized temporarily, just slightly, right before an earthquake starts. And the theory goes that a lot of folks say that the earthquake itself causes a magnetic disturbance. But one of the theories is that it's the magnetic disturbance itself that actually triggers the earthquake by creating what may be a harmonic resonance or something of that nature. Maybe it affects the rocks in different ways. Maybe one rock is pulled magnetically. I'm not sure how it works. This is all theory, but it's, 20 years ago, if you said that the sun has something to do with earthquakes on Earth, people would say you're crazy. And today they're still saying they're crazy, but a lot more people are jumping into that and trying to understand how it works. But when you think about how our solar system is affected within the Milky Way galaxy and held within that spiral, and how all the planets are held within orbit around the sun, and how on the Earth we are all basically magnetic components of this Earth. And if we can learn how to harness that and utilize it, we might be able to, do a lot of things. Not just healing other people, but healing ourselves. And I think that's why I'm very likely to believe that much of what goes on as faith healing, as Reiki, hands-on experience, these different things, they're very real. It's just a matter of both parties being aware of what they're doing. The receiver has to be open and have that channel open. It would only be natural that energy can flow from one being to another, right? And when this happens, in a non-visual spectrum, such as magnetism, you may be very well losing your energy to someone you're living with who is sucking your magnetic energy or altering your field and you're not aware of it. However, most people would just say that's pseudoscience, it doesn't matter. But I have never met anyone who didn't agree that a vibe can ruin your mood. That you can walk into a room and feel the energy if somebody's feeling a certain way, whether they're happy or sad. And so this leads me to believe that this is a very useful thing. In other words, many of the things that are unprovable are believed for the sake of feeling good inside. Or, such as a person says, well, I believe in things I can't see, or these energy fields, because I believe that I'll die and I'll go to heaven, or whatever it might be for that person. In this particular case, the reason why I believe this, it's not a feel-good thing. It's because I believe it's a tool. In other words, it's something that seems more like science than pseudoscience to me personally. That our magnetic energy, whatever it may be and however it may be, can be utilized. I mean, this has been proven scientifically that people can control their body temperature. You know, the monks in Tibet, they filmed them putting wet towels on them in freezing cold caves and drying the towels by evaporating it. You can, I don't remember where I saw it, but it's a pretty well-known phenomenon. Monks have shown what people really can do if they if they go to the extreme to try to control the energies. But the fact is, you're controlling your body's chemistry through intention. And there's no reason to believe that you couldn't control your body's magnetic field as well. And so, those are my opinions on that. I'll talk to you all later.